Today I'm going to be waffling about Scottish independence, and this is particularly relevant because the Scottish Independence Referendum is 9 days from now. Within UK politics, Scotland has a lot of current autonomy, but there's a section within Scotland which would like independence, a nationalist movement, which Wales and Ireland also have nationalist movements. However, Scotland's predominantly peaceful nationalist movement has got to a point now where it is in government within Scotland, and it has promised a referendum, which the UK government has agreed to, probably because most polls show they won't win. Polls show about 40% to 60% against independence. Now, any prediction as to what will happen may well be wrong, and with an independence referendum there's probably some sort of sway on the day as to people actually weighing things up. But the more wide point is to look at the two issues, because last time I was sceptical about a simple European referendum, so I would like to elucidate on what it is about a Scottish referendum that I feel differently about. On the whole, surely nationalism is not the best course of action in a modern globalised world, and generally speaking, shouldn't we be heading towards a Type 1 civilization? There's two key points here about Scotland. This may well be different in other nationalist sub-countries which are common throughout the world. Most major countries have some sort of part of that country which historically, ethnically, politically feels itself different from the rest of the country. But within Scotland, the nationalist movement is not traditional nationalist, it is not ethnic, and it is not conservative in that sense, which is why it stands itself different from UK politics, which is currently at least partially conservative with the coalition government, and is to some extent being pushed further right by groups like UKIP, while Scotland remains more socialist and more keen on immigration due to its ageing population and its general low habitation rate compared to the rest of the UK. So as Scotland is different in this way, I don't think the normal arguments against nationalism work. However, it is still counterproductive to a more globalised Type 1 civilization heading. This is the major problem. However, I'm not convinced, despite arguing possibly, you might think, in favour of Europe in the last edition, that the Scottish problem is an analogous one to the UK and UKIP, because Scotland is not wanting to reduce its ties with the outside world. It is wanting to govern itself within a limited way, whilst having as many club memberships of different international clubs as possible, e.g. the Commonwealth, the European Union. By doing so, Scotland wishes to remain or even become more active internationally. This leads me to think that Scotland is not trying to regress, globally speaking. It is trying to look outward or be outward looking. It is, however, much more difficult to be outward looking or globalised as smaller countries. This comes down to a fundamental problem with Type 1 civilizations. In the classic depiction of them like Star Trek, Type 1 civilizations are not really best done with humanity currently as it is by using one giant world government that governs all people everywhere. In my view, a Type 1 civilization would work best as lots of small countries governed by liberal nationalist ideas and somewhat customised to where their surroundings were, who were part of wider clubs that agreed rules. All countries would belong to one or multiple clubs. These would be able to govern international matters and be more effective at things like tackling climate change, funding research into broad, long-term problems. But individual citizens would live feeling governed by their own community and their wider nation. Any single state, due to the number of people in the world, would be so remote from most people that it would never seem democratic. See problems with the European Union. So in my view, a Scottish independence may show a change in nationalism. But for the people of Scotland, this is somewhat irrelevant, especially as the Scottish referendum will probably be good for the people of Scotland, be it a yes vote or a no vote, as the No to Independence campaign has given a lot of assurances that Scotland can have more independence if it stays with the UK. Well, that's what I think.